You're looking good, and it feels good to be with you. You who are 3 steps above average. I'm Kendall Bryan Hunter. I am author of this book, Consider My Servant Job. It's a commentary on Job in the Old Testament. Wherever you're at in life, if you need help, hopefully my book can give that help to you. Today's theme is Parler Lives. Yeah, the Parler social media app is up and running again. It's been up and running since April 2024. Apparently, they had a staggered release that was available on their Apple App Store, and then later it went to Google. I saw about. I had a little bit of a problem with it. I tried to log in, and it looked like it was I was trying to use my old account, my pre-decimation account, and we need to use the MCU terms for this: the blip and the decimation. I was able to get on through my phone number as opposed to the password. But they always do this double check things with that. Security is always a big issue, especially now with AI. I was able to get back on, and they had my account from the pre-decimation. It's interesting to look back at some of the old contacts, the ones that are now dead, people who are no longer on there, but people that I interacted with on social media that had sort of meaningful experience as best as you could get through social media. And it doesn't replace human contact, human touch, but it's certainly they're your friends, even though you just don't see them in person. And they use avatars and handles and what have you. But very interesting experience. It's slowly rebuilding itself. Parler was founded in 2018. It was a safe haven from the algorithm changes of Facebook and the shadow banning on Twitter. And those were both real things, especially the shadow banning. Elon Musk investigated that with the Twitter files, and give those a look. There definitely was some hanky-panky, to use an old expression, going on there. There was censorship. I created there's a lot of buzz with Parler and Rumble at the same time as alternatives to what was going on on YouTube. Even YouTube has been having some problems recently. Some of the people I follow talk about not deplatforming, but getting knocked out of the algorithm and people not finding their videos. I created an account, and early on they had this Venetian blind effect at the bottom of the page where you see the messages and it scrolled. I actually like that. It went away with various updates, and I missed that one. But what happened is January 6th happened, J6 happened, and in my view, Parler was scapegoated. There's coordinations, incitement to violence, and people said they saw videos on Parler. Parler, like I said, Parler was the alternative. And it's the dilemma. Well, you either be for free speech or engaging in just a different form of censorship that Twitter and Facebook were doing. In my view, this was an unfair accusation. Think about it this way. 100% of all this subversive activity was going on Parler, and 0% was going anywhere else, nowhere on chat rooms, on Substacks, on Reddit, on Facebook, and Twitter. Just one social media app was the mainspring of all corruptions. You can feel it right now. You're not buying it, and I agree with you. Of course, it was going on in a lot of other places, and people were scared. They're panicking. They had the Black Lives Matter riots, the COVID-19. People were scared. They needed a scapegoat, and Parler was it. So it got deplatformed. They pulled the app off of it, and you had to download it from their website. Amazon pulled it off their servers. It collapsed. They sold it off to different people, and it just went away for 2 years. But apparently, it's up and running again, which I'm glad. You have to be viciously opposed to censorship. Censorship cuts both ways. Now, what happened is what's going on now is Elon Musk fixed the shadow banning on Twitter, now X, and Trump's created his own social media platform, Truth Social. Remember, he created it in response to being deplatformed through shadow banning, deplatformed Donald Trump on Twitter. So two rich people, one bought it and one created his own rival. And so both of those really filled the Parler gap, going one way or the other. I know Dinesh D'Souza is really wild on Truth Social, and a lot of people use it as a redundant system like I do. I'm actually on Facebook, which I keep for my family. That's just a personal thing, so I won't friend you on it. Let's stay with X. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Truth Social. Now I'm on Parler back again. It's funny. I always felt like there's a gap there with it. So in a certain sense, Parler's a bit redundant to what's going on. If you have a conservative voice, you have Rumble and Truth Social. It'll protect you. But on the other hand, I've noticed that every time you get a new social media app comes out, there's always improvements. Pre-decimation Parler was better than Twitter. Blue Sky certainly had improvements on Twitter, and Parler and Truth Social also had other improvements. And like I said, I really like what they're doing with Parler right now. The user interface is great. I do miss that the rolling Venetian blind effect at the bottom. So there's a lot of potential there. Elon Musk wants to make X an everything app. You're doing your direct messaging, banking on there, where everything you need to do will be on one app, which shows you how smart a guy is. He's worth this $1 trillion bonus he's getting. I certainly voted for it. I'm a shareholder in Tesla, and I voted for it. Elon Musk is a once in a thousand year genius, like Isaac Newton or Albert Einstein, and we need to milk his brain for as long as it's possible. Part of it too is with my view at Parler. There's sentimental and principal reasons. My voice was silenced. I got scapegoated, guilt by association, by this mob that needed to hurt someone to feel better about themselves. So there you go. Big news item if you're in Utah is the election map. Utah's the bluest of the blue states, and the ever so often, when you have the census, you have to redraw the map, and California is shrinking, Utah's growing, because all the people are leaving California and going to Utah and Texas. And the lighting's a little bit better now. So the Constitution requires the state legislature to draw the map. And then Proposition 4 created an independent redistricting commission to keep us nonpartisan. So they proposed a map. The legislature wrote one, or drew a map, but it's ultimately the state legislature has to approve it. So you had two groups, Mormon, the M word there, Mormon Women for Ethical Government, and then the League of Women Voters sued. And then Judge Diana Gibson struck down the state legislature's map. And then she did something interesting. She took the map that was drawn by the League of Women Voters and implemented that one. So the Constitution says the legislature has to draw the map, but the judge took a map that was drawn by the League of Women Voters and implemented that. Now, does that feel right? Like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I have a minored in political science, resident of that. But is that how we get maps drawn in Utah? As the judge turns to an advocacy group and takes their map and imposes that upon the state? Here's another take. So you have two female advocacy groups, Mormon Woman and League of Women Voters, and then a female judge takes the map and then hands it off to the female Lieutenant Governor, Deidre Henderson, who says, okay, she's following what the court says, so she's implementing this map. Now think about when the feminists say, well, the men make all the decisions. Isn't this redistricting just a bunch of women making decisions now? They're the tyrants. Like I say, I'm over talking. I know Deidre Henderson, and to be honest with you, if I was in the same position, I'd actually have to do the same thing, because the judge tells you to do it, then you fight it in court. So I'm not faulting her for the decision. But yeah, so the legislature did not draw the map we're using. It was a court-appointed map. Selected, not elected. Remember that slogan from Bush? Comment on Mormon Woman for Ethical Government. The name is problematic. The name suggests it's an official organization of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints needs to clarify this. Just issue a statement. This organization is not part. If they've done it, then I apologize. Put a link below to correct me, because I'm always open for correction or clarification. But I'm curious why they haven't issued a statement. The second thing is this organization is still using the incorrect name of the church. Remember what President Nelson taught. The name offends Christ, and obscuring the name of Christ is a major victory for Satan. Major victory for Satan. So what does that tell you about what's going on here by using the incorrect name of the church? Major victory for Satan and offending Christ. Words of a prophet. Now, you have ex-personality, data Republican, also a woman. And it's interesting, she's hearing impaired, and she talked about the time she got swatted once. So you're deaf, and you get swatted. And I think about this. Data Republican did an expose on the group, Mormon Women for Ethical Government. I provide the link below. You can look it up, Data Republican, and then it'll come up quickly. But that's some interesting. Now, as always, that's just one side of the story. That's one person's data set, but you certainly can't ignore it. Interesting. Going on, we're talking about, started talking about Parler, but we're actually talking about women right now. Partisan divide in childbearing, Deseret News. Each year, I think this is 11 years running, Deseret News does this political survey. And so the partisan divide in childbearing, one party likes having children, the other one doesn't. So you who are 3 steps above average, which party is for babies and which party is against babies? Yes, you're right. You're complete. How did you know that? I didn't even have to tell you. So let's move on. Yeah, let's left and right. It's interesting, this childbearing, it's tied with abortion. There's also the environmental impact with it. Some people on the left don't want to have children due to the environmental impact. Scarce resources, population zero, if you remember Saturday's Warrior. It's interesting, too, there's also the careerism among women, because you think about this, you're either being a mom or you're being CEO, mother in heaven or CEO in heaven. I have to say it's quite a master stroke to convince women not to have children. The thing, holding a baby is like holding a lump of cheese, as one lady posted on social media once. I read, a baby's like a lump of cheese. Russell M. Nelson, our late prophet, if we lose the moral rectitude of woman, the world will never recover. That extinction level event in the realm of morality extinction level event. What's going on with the sisters? What's going on with their attitudes toward the family proclamation? Trump in the news. He's president, so of course we have to talk about him. He's a neighbor you're supposed to love. Lucifer is the common enemy, and Donald Trump's a neighbor you're supposed to love. And if you don't forgive him, the worst sin is upon your head, as is taught in the Doctrine and Covenants. Trump and the Epstein files. For me, we already had this discussion with Bill Clinton, debating the moral rectitude of presidents, cover-ups, with sexual scandals. Once feminists bowed the knee and got on the knees and supported Bill Clinton as president in order to get abortion, to keep abortion illegal, closed the discussion on the need to have a moral rectitude of presidents. The feminists, this is on you, feminist, for voting for Bill Clinton. Remember the Jaredite Morianton? This is in the book of Ether. It says, he did do justice unto the people, but not unto himself, because of his many whoredoms. Wherefore he is cut off from the presence of the Lord. Ether 10:11. That's interesting. You can have a morally failed king, but he can do justice to the people, but not to himself. This is to say that doesn't matter about the leader's private life, but apparently people are very good at compartmentalizing. H.P. Lovecraft talks about that in the beginning of Call of Cthulhu, the first line, compartmentalizing. Trump number 2. Trump BBC lawsuit for $1 billion. BBC, this is about the edited tape. There was a 50-minute gap between one quote and the other one, and it clearly distorted what it was doing. Is made to make Trump look like he was inciting riot. And that's the same thing with the Twitter post. Is Trump said, I don't do this on Twitter, but they ignored that, got caught up with hysteria. Impeachaholic. There's a good word, impeachaholic. Nancy Pelosi, the impeachaholic. BBC Director General Tim Davey and Deborah Turnus resigned over the edited Trump tape. They intentionally distorted the truth. They're taking Trump's statements to diabolize him. It was clear misrepresentation, and it created this ongoing mythology that led to a second impeachment about him inciting violence, which he didn't. Now, I don't think we'll get a clear story about January 6th. I'm 100% against violence. Let's work through the democratic process as best we can. Take our wins, take our losses both with grace, take our win with grace, take our losses with grace. But this is about the word I use, confusocracy. This disinformation, incorrect information was intended to confuse us, to create this image, this saying that Trump's a fascist, so they edited it, became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, why does the left need to do this in order to win? And it goes back to Parler, the need for free speech to combat this misrepresentation. That's why they took down Parler, because Parler was the avenue of truth. You were getting shadow banned on Facebook and Twitter, and this was the bastion of free speech. I have a friend who's a Democrat, supporter of the LGBTQ. He has a brother who's LGBTQ, got a PhD in psychology, but he wants censorship, and we got into a back and forth. This one where he just couldn't get anywhere, and he just could get unstuck from the idea that free speech equals hate speech, and you must stop hate speech. So free speech equals hate speech. In order to stop hate speech, you'd stop free speech. Now, any 1L first-year law student knows that free speech doesn't include any type of speech, fraud, defamation of character, that type of thing. But my friend just couldn't get unstuck from this, and we just had to break off the conversation. But why this need to control speech? Well, censoring free speech is censorship on spirituality and censorship on miracles. Now, listen to that. I'll repeat it again. Censoring free speech is a censorship on miracles. Faith, Romans 10:17. Faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Lectures on Faith 7. We ask then, what are we to understand by man's working by faith? We answer that when a man works by faith, he works by mental exertion instead of physical force. It is by words instead of exerting his physical powers, with which every being works when he works by faith. God said, let there be light, and there was light. So understand that if I don't have free speech, I can't exercise my faith, and I can't work a miracle. When you do censorship, it's anti-miracle, because people can't talk, and they can't teach doctrine. They can't teach correct principles for you to exercise your faith properly. You need the ability to speak to exercise faith. And that was tied with the deplatforming of Parler and Donald Trump. And I remember posting this on Facebook. I said, look, if you can deplatform Donald Trump, you can deplatform Russell M. Nelson, who was prophet at the time. And I had one of my friends from my mission, he started chiding me for that. But no, explain it is if you can deplatform Trump, you can deplatform Dallin H. Oaks for hate speech. Is a family proclamation hate speech? Does your political party teach you to look at the family proclamation as hate speech? And what does that mean? The cognitive dissonance. The doublethink where you have a copy of the family proclamation on the wall just as a decor, object dot. But then you just oppose it left and right when they talk about a general conference. I think the greatest assault on free speech was Charlie Kirk. What happened to him? What happened to Charlie Kirk? The greatest assault was what happened to him. He was shot at a university of all places. And that's symbolic of what's going on, where people exercising free speech are getting killed. That's the extreme level of censorship going on. Speaking of which, Utah Valley University had Utah Republican Senator John Curtis, who I voted for. He was mayor here in Provo and voted for him. Arizona Democrat Mark Kelly talked with CNN's Dana Bash. And I have a link to the Herald Extra. And I'm glad this is going on, that we're keeping Charlie Kirk alive, if you can pardon the oxymoron, the pun there, keeping his memory alive. Free speech is key to free faith and the key to miracles, that we need to keep him in memory and start changing the culture and changing the laws. But is this just more chattering class? We need to have a conversation. Why? It's really bad this happened. I'm just aghast that this happened. You are right. We need to change things. This culture of contempt. Boy, I'm sure, and sometimes it gets to just chattering class like the Athenians in the book of Acts, just talking about, just hearing something new or different. I'm glad it's going on, but let's get beyond the blathering about it. Trump 3, the check, the tariff dividend. So this has been going on. Pay attention to the pattern of behavior, the sequence. You got 500 from Trump during COVID-19. For me, I spent it. Biden, we got 1,000 from Biden. The second I saw that appear in my in my bank account, I walked to a local bank, set up an IRA CD, and for the past 6 years, it's just sitting there been cooking, collecting interest. I mean, I could have gotten better rates elsewhere, but son of a gun, when people drop money into your lap like that, you have to use it wisely. So when you get this check, it's $2,000. What are you going to do with it? Brilliant, free money from the government. But first of all, what's this habituating us to become all dependent upon the government? That's a problem. But when we get this windfall, what are you going to do with it? So let's go into life some pointers. Now, I talked about finances, about getting on a budget. And how you do a budget is just get an envelope, and then you stuff all your receipts in here, and then you just work off of that to categorize and see how much you spend. I'm going to talk about debt snowball today, and this is how you get out of debt. So what you do is you have to, first of all, put on your grown-up pants. Realize you're grown up. I am wearing a jacket, and I do have this. I was born in Oakland, so that. And hi, I'm Brandon Sanderson. So what you do is you look at all the debt you have, and you have to be grown up about this. Face the music. This is a cool and rational way to face the music and get the agony out of your life. When you're ready, so I will do whatever it takes to get this get this monkey off my back. What you do is you get all your debts and you line them up. Now there's 3 approaches to this. One is that you line up your debts largest to smallest, and that's sort of a nerd way of doing it, because a nerd wants to attack the biggest one, largest to smallest. And you get the other one, which is Dave Ramsey recommends, which is actually has a better psychology. You reverse that order. You start with the smallest debt, and you get the largest one. Then you have a Larry Burkett recommended one is another approach is you get the one with the highest interest rate and the lowest interest rate. Now, when I use a debt snowball, and I'm talking from my heart, I did this, so it worked for me. It's mathematical. So this is number things. You know, we use the same numbers in America and Russia and Antarctica, and when on Mars we use the same numbers. So mathematics is a universal constant. I want to use the highest interest rate because I had 2 really outstanding loans. One is my credit card, then my student loan. They're about the same level at this time. So what I did is I chose to go with the credit card because it had the highest interest rate. Plus, I could get a forbearance on the student loan. You know, they'll give you, okay, if there's a crisis or an emergency, okay, we'll hold things off. And so if there's a problem, you have to pay your credit card, but you can slow down with the student loans. So what you do is you line them up, and this is from this pamphlet called One for the Money. It's a free PDF. Just put the title in One for the Money. It'll come up. You can print it out. So it's not the best one, but it'll get you headed the right direction. And so see how it starts out there with the debt elimination calendar. So what you did is you have a debt, so you start paying off the minimum balance on each of them every month. And so you take the smallest one, minimum balance, you pay it off. And so you take the minimum balance from this one, you add it to the minimum balance of the second one. And so you retired this one, then this one you start paying the both minimum balances. When this retires, you take the 2 minimum balances, add this to the third one. You kind of see where it's going. You start adding numbers to it, and it just disappears really quickly. Now, Dave Ramsey recommends you start with a smaller one because that gives you the psychological momentum. Once you see one debt disappear, you realize, wait, this is work. This is going to work. You just can feel that it's working. You retire one. Once you retire 2, you're just convinced, we're going to do this. And so by the time you tackle your large one, it's going to disappear really quickly because you're adding all the minimum balances from the previous debts. And this pamphlet has let me find it. Right here, this has a blank elimination calendar. You could do this on any piece of paper. You can get like a composition book, a notebook. spiral book. You can use the electronic spreadsheet. That's actually another life skill to develop, is learn how to use a spreadsheet. Check out a book, Spreadsheets for Dummies, or online tutorials. Add that to your skill set. I want to testify about this. I was able to pay off my loans. I am now debt-free. I have emergency funds, and I was able to pay for a hernia operation and a toe amputation without going into debt, because I followed these principles. I got rid of my consumer debt, my student loan. I paid it back. You just feel good about having honored your debts and paying things back. So this takes about 3 to 5 years, Dave Ramsey notes. So pretend like you're a missionary. Here's a little thing. Make sure you make a missionary name tag, make it in green because of the money. You see here, hey, I am a money missionary. Remember, Brigham Young called people on gold missions to dig gold in California. So you put this, this is my money missionary name tag, and I'm going to pay down. Don't walk around with this, but you take it and have some fun with it. The trick is getting your spouse on board, but it worked for me. It works for thousands of other people. You keep your promises by paying off your debt. That's what I recommend with it, because once you pay it out of debt, the next time you get a check from the government, you're able to put it in a savings account, a money market account, a CD, or a growth stock index fund, and make a whole lot of money and have peace and security where replace your anxiety with security. Okay, here's another life pointer. Cornell note-taking system. Now, when I was in high school, one of my teachers taught a version of this, and I used it through high school and through college. I got it my freshman year at high school, and I just carried it through me. But this is the Cornell system from Cornell University. So you have your piece of paper, and you can adapt this to digital. You have the main column right here is your note column. And use this black ink. Now, that's my view on it, because black ink photocopies easier and it lasts longer. Blue ink fades easier, and it's harder to photocopy. So you have your note column here, and you have what's called your Q column. And this one you can do in blue ink. So this is black ink, and then when you use your red pen or blue pen to highlight stuff, it stands out better. I know people are colorblind. I don't have a good option for you. That's when you're going to have to use your personal ingenuity to adapt this. So you have your notes here, then you put keywords and sum up paragraphs here. And then right here at the bottom, you have the summary of your entire notes. And you also do this in black ink. So you're actually hearing the lecture, you're writing the notes down. So you're hearing the lecture for the third time. When you review it, you're making it easier for you to study. When you have the Q column, the keywords, concepts, notes, law school, the court cases and the holding, you put this in this column. This is like the broader thing. So Cornell note-taking system got me through high school, got me through college. Last thing, I'm dead serious about this last one. Let's get this paper off, set this there. Bleach. You remember that something called COVID-19? Read the stuff here on the bottle of bleach on how to use it, how to make a disinfectant. People went crazy because the disinfectant wipes just flew off the shelves. But you can use bleach, Clorox, this household bleach, and you can mix it in a certain way where you can make your own household wipes. So just get an old sock or an old towel, mix it according to the recipe in here, if you can use that term. It's also, está en español para las personas que se hablan castellano. One of the things you learn, if you're Republican, learn how to speak Spanish. Learn how to speak Spanish and Arabic. But right here, you read these directions, and then how to clean the toilet, how to clean your sink, and how to sanitize stuff. So the next time we get a COVID-19, you're not panicking. Okay, so that's three lifesome pointers right there. And then sum up, that's the passing seen with the eyes of faith.